What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another Tottenham update and a few bits and pieces to get through today. And let's start off with Tottenham's new recruitment model, as Matt Law reporting that Daniel Levy has held discussions with betting experts over developing a data model for Tottenham that the club hope could revolutionise their recruitment, as seen at Brentford and Brighton. Part of Levy's brief for the sporting director he is looking to recruit will be to work with data and potentially use the model he has been discussing with experts to advise and make decisions on players, both in terms of incomings and outgoings.
Baffling. Absolutely baffling. I mean, what year are we in? Is this like 2005? You should started using data back then, I think. We're in 2023.
But in that article, it also went to say, like, he wanted to move. He didn't want to go into all this kind of thing because he didn't see the value in it.
Well, I was reading the article, and the quote, the paragraph talking about it says, one of the departments is likely to undergo significant change and investment is data and analytics, which is an area which Levy has previously been reluctant to invest, having questioned its value. I mean,
it's just laughable at this point, to be honest.
I don't understand it whatsoever. How can you not see if you're trying to get ahead of the competition and you're trying to be smart about who you're picking and things like that, data has to be at the center of that. That has to be so central to your recruitment, because you need to be getting an edge on the opposition. What are they going on? Feeling? Just scout, just the eye test, essentially. Oh, he looks all right. We're going to go for him. Like, you have to be using everything at your disposal. And it's 2023, and Levy has finally seen the value in using data and analytics as a tool to really invest in and actually get good results from. I mean, how has he been doing it these past 20 years? It just baffles me that we haven't seen the value in it when you don't have as much money as the opposition. This is exactly the route you should be going down.
And you know what's crazy about this whole thing is, right, the only reason he's coming to this conclusion now is because Brighton have overtaken us. Brighton have overtaken us, and they're going to finish above us this season.
I love the article. Spurs want to beat Brentford or Brighton. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
But like, We've heard many a time before, right, that Daniel Levy has said no to this transfer, yes to this transfer. He's gone on his own and picked his own players. We also know that Daniel Levy is not a footballing man. So what is he going on?
He's going on feeling, gut
it's
feeling.
Ridiculous.
He's going on the eye test. He's going on the eye test.
He's going on the old John Cooper eye test.
No, he's going on YouTube compilation. Send him on YouTube. Oh, this Gragos Reziak, he looks good on YouTube, doesn't he? Let's get him in. Like, seriously, honestly, we're so behind the times. Look, on a serious note, it's obviously a good thing that we're finally doing it, and like, that's a positive step. But like, come on, I mean, I can't give him credit for moving into data in 2023.
All we can say.
Come on, 2023.
I get that, but at least it's a step in the right direction.
No, yeah, it is, but still, it's like, I don't know. It's like giving him credit because he we finally got a goalkeeping coach or something when we haven't had one ever. It's like, it's ridiculous.
It makes me think though, like, under Pochettino, because Pochettino was a very forward-thinking manager. We had Paul Mitchell in there as well at the time. It was like, was there no data being used at that point?
I'm sure there has to be some data, but clearly where we haven't invested maybe the same level of other teams in this field, and we haven't utilised it as much. And as you said, what did David Webb say? You know, he brought players to Levy, probably using the data, saying, look, Mane, this guy, he's going to be the next big Upamecano. And Levy's just said, no. Maybe it's because he hasn't seen the value in this data approach. And I think there's one thing also having it and one thing utilising it.
And I'm sure players like Kavisha and Kim Min-jae were also earmarked by that strategy as well.
Exactly, and we've just been turning up our nose at it, and now, you know, to read that Levy hasn't seen the value in it is just absolutely perplexing.
But let's move on. Let's talk about David Raya once again. The Mail are reporting that David Raya is believed to favour a move to Tottenham over Chelsea, who are interested in the Brentford goalkeeper. Tottenham feel, though, that 20 million is a good starting point for negotiations over a deal for a player, whilst Thomas Frank has publicly suggested a fee for around 40 million is their valuation of the player, suggesting that there is ground to be made up if Spurs want to complete a deal. And I mean, let's be honest here. If you're spending 40 million to sort out the goalkeeping situation for at least the next 5 to 7 years, just go and get the deal done.
Yeah, he's worth it. A goalkeeper is a very important position. We know that it's one we need upgrading in the summer. We know Chelsea are sniffing around, so if we kind of dig our heels in and negotiate for too long, we risk being gazumped. If the 40 million isn't in this day and age, obviously, look, it's not cheap, but it's not like a bad price either. So I think he's worth it. And obviously, what's going to happen? We're going to put in an opening bid of 20 million, and the whole negotiation is going to go on for the whole summer, and then we're finally going to either move on or like we're gonna just bid the 40 million in the end.
Yeah, I mean it'll be that classic rumbling saga, and then Chelsea or someone else will just swoop in 40 million. David Raya goes, "Oh, this club clearly really want me," and then he'll just go there.
Yep.
That's a sorry state of affairs at Tottenham. But another goalkeeper who is on the list, Julian Mamardshvili of Valencia. David Ornstein reporting that Tottenham are monitoring the progress of Mamardshvili, and he is very likely to leave Valencia this summer.
Interesting. Obviously, he's had a great breakout year for Valencia this season. Very young keeper, spoken out a few times. If he wants out, I think we should definitely be taking a serious look at him. And even I know Raya has the Premier League experience, but in a weird way, if we're going for like a young rebuild, a team that can grow together, maybe that isn't as important as getting the right quality. And if we believe this guy could be better than Raya in a few years, like maybe it's worth going for him.
Yeah, it's a good shout. I mean, I haven't seen too much of him, so it's hard for us to say on the actual quality he has compared to David Raya, who we see week in, week out in the Premier League.
Maybe they can use some data.
You never know, maybe. But look, I think that the feeling around Mamardshvili and the kind of reports that we're hearing that he is going to be a very top keeper. So the Georgian Buffon, the Georgian Donnarumma, they're calling him. So why not bring him in? Let's talk about Nagelsmann against now. Paul O'Keefe saying that it is understood that Julian Nagelsmann had a list of preferred people that he wanted to work with, but it didn't align with Tottenham. What the hell is that supposed to mean?
Depends who he wanted, but who exactly does he want to work with that Tottenham are so dead set against? I mean, look, I don't know. If we can't see the list, I can't comment.
Do you reckon it could have been like Johannes Spurs or someone like that?
Maybe all the rumours call the German people like Steinton and Spurs. Maybe they'll come from his camp, and Tottenham just weren't interested. I do like. It's fair enough that Spurs want to pick their own sport director. They don't want to be beholden to what other managers want, because they want to pick the guy who's right for Tottenham, and that's fair enough. I just wonder what the problem was with these people that Nagelsmann was suggesting. I
Too ambitious, probably.
Maybe wanted to spend too much money, or wanted to spend too much money on data. Maybe that's probably part of the problem. I don't know, but I can't see, Nagelsmann should want to align with what Tottenham want in terms of a rebuild. So I mean, there's no real reason I can't see it working, but clearly Tottenham have some objections.
Yeah, it's hard to take, really, because when you've got a manager like Julian Nagelsmann ready to go, I mean, in my opinion, you should listen to what he says, because he knows what he's talking about. And if you do listen to what he says, you're probably on to bigger and better things. But alas, we are not doing that. So let's move on and let's talk about Marcus Krausch, who is the sporting director for Eintracht Frankfurt. Sport 1 saying that Frankfurt Sporting CEO Marcus Krausch will not leave this summer despite interest from Tottenham. We also heard from our source as well that Scott Munn has been speaking about him a lot. Yeah,
and I mean, could he be a guy as well Nagelsmann was thinking about? But I don't know too much about this guy, to be honest. Obviously, Frankfurt have done really well with their recruitment recently. Even taking players like someone like Kostic, who hasn't had a great kind of career around Europe, and then taking him, making him a brilliant left wing back. People like Evan and Dika as well, Kamada, unfancy talents, and just making a really good team, winning the Europa League as well. Jovic as well recently, Andre Silva. They've got quite a good list of talent there of late. So clearly they're doing something right from a recruitment point of view. So it makes sense that Tottenham would be interested. But it's whether he aligns with what we want.
Well, who does align with
I don't know. What do we want? I don't know. That's a great question. And that's what Tottenham, I also feel like we haven't decided yet what we want. I think that's a big part of the issue, and that's leading to all these different kind of sporting directors which have different kind of philosophies.
How the hell are we at this stage and we still don't know what we want? After everything that's gone wrong at this football club since Pochettino, how the hell do we still not know what direction we want to go in with this football club? It's an absolute joke.
Yeah.
It really is an absolute joke. But that brings us on to our quotes from Harry Kane. And he says, I've said all along, I'm focused on this season and trying to help the team as much as possible. That's all I can do. There's a big summer ahead, and that's a lot needs to change. Here's to start being successful again. Ultimately, my focus is now to enjoy the last week as much as possible, to try and finish with a win on Sunday. I think there's a conversation to be had with the chairman anyway in terms of the values of the club. It will be a conversation. We've had many conversations before like that on how we can improve, and that will be the case again. So how many of the same conversations can Harry Kane have with Daniel Levy before Harry Kane just be like, you know what is the point of these conversations anymore?
I agree, and I feel bad for him. He probably, we were here 2 years ago when he was talking to Gary Neville saying, yeah, look, I'm going to have a conversation with the chairman this summer, and it's, I feel like we've hit a bit of a crossroads, and there definitely has to be a conversation about where we're going, what the next steps are. He was still saying then, look, I feel like I've got plenty of time left in my legs, and I feel like I've got a whole other career to do in my career, but it's about where I want to spend the next step. Obviously, he didn't decide. He was forced to stay at Tottenham, and now he's here 2 years later.
I think forced is a bit harsh because Man City just never stumped up the money, you know what I mean?
He was still full. We rejected the offers, you know what I mean? He was forced.
Yeah, but I mean...
We could have got 100 million for him.
Well, they only offered 80, right?
It was all plus add-ons.
Yeah.
So it would have been 100 million. If we really want, look, we forced him to stay. He wanted to leave. We forced him to stay. That's the truth.
All right.
And I think that we're now here 2 years later, and we're in a worse position, and we've got no direction. We could finish as low as 9th in the table. So those conversations are naturally going to happen again, and I'm not surprised that Harry Kane, if he's frustrated with this whole situation, because as we said, he stayed at Tottenham, and now off the promise things would get better, and we're in an absolute mess right now. And he's probably last home game of the season. He's probably looking at it. We'll lose after losing 3-1 to Brentford. He's got his 28th league goal of the season after banging it in from 30 yards, and the rest of the team either aren't up for it, don't care as much as him. The hierarchy are incompetent. The fans seem to have given up on what this club is offering at the moment. So what is there to cling on to in terms of what's getting better right now for him?
Yeah. There's nothing to cling on to. There really isn't. And let's be honest, if we do bring in an Arnie Slot, that's not going to bring, I don't think that's going to bring, results immediately. It's going to be a process. And I feel like even if we do bring in an Arnie Slot, next season could be a very hard season once we get to grips with his way of football. So does Harry Kane have enough time in himself to stay here for a rebuild like that?
That's a good question. Obviously, could it be another 2-3 years till we start competing again under an Arnie Slot, and does he have the patience for that? But what's interesting, I find, what he's talking about now, whereas 2 years ago I felt like he's talking about the team and the squad. He was saying how we need. I remember a couple of years ago he was saying stuff like we need a refresh, rebuild, that kind of stuff. Now he's saying the values of the club. Now he's talking about these different aspects, and I feel like that's definitely more aimed at the hierarchy than it was 2 years ago.
Absolutely,
and I think that's a good thing for sure. But I look whether what happens, but on the consequence of that, I'm not sure. But it's interesting to see Harry Kane talking about that kind of thing a lot more now.
Yeah, it really is, and it's refreshing, to be honest, because it's very rare you hear players come out and talk about that kind of stuff, even when it is going wrong, about the hierarchy of the club. And obviously Daniel Levy will hold Harry Kane in very high regard, and he'll want to listen to every word he says to keep him at the club. So it's a good conversation to have, and it probably will be a different conversation that they did have 2 years ago. But I guess we'll just have to see where it goes. But I'm not holding my breath. I do think he will be here next season, but I just can't see him signing that new contract. I just can't see it. So I think the way it's going to play out, either he stays, goes in January for a cut price fee, or he goes on a free at the end of next season. I
can't see us selling in January if we're like, I don't know what state we're going to be in. I can't see us selling in January though. If we're going to sell how it's going to be this summer, I think we're just going to give it every opportunity to convince him to sign, even if it means running down his contract. I think that's what we're going to do, and we're going to risk it. I think we're going to roll the dice and hope we can convince him by the end of next season. But at the moment, we're very far away from him signing for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is your Tottenham update for today. Let me know in the comments section below your thoughts on any of the news stories we've brought to you today. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always,